We know that biofuels are a hot topic, something that everyone's talking about. What are some of the potential carbon dioxide savings that we would get if using these new types of fuels?
So potential savings on carbon dioxide emissions are considerable if you are using the right sort of sustainable aviation fuels. And so what we, Boeing and the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Users Group, are focused on is developing the supply chains and the sustainability foundation for those next generation of sustainable biomass energy sources.
And how difficult is that? I mean, is there actually a supply chain now? Is there a production line that's making these fuels?
There are some nascent efforts for next generation options, both on the processing technology to make the jet fuel from the plant, as well as developing the plants. Fundamentally, what's going on in this space, not just for aviation, but bioenergy in general, is humanity is struggling with a limited amount of arable land that's hitting us, a limited amount of potable water, of fresh water resources, and so a lot of entities, governments, investors, any hybrid government-private partnerships are looking at types of biomass energy systems that can be optimized for those kinds of conditions. Less arable land, less fertilizer needed, less water. So really humanity's just sort of launching on another agricultural revolution, which is not using as much of those high value inputs to make bioenergy. And aviation's role in that is to help steer those options that will work for aviation, because not all of them will work for aviation, but some of them will. Our role is to help enable the market to develop around those fundamentally new types of biomass energy technologies in a sustainable way and in an affordable way, and in a way that really does reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Now, as far as the aviation industry goes, how far away are we from seeing sustainable biofuels being used on a daily basis?
Sure. So in terms of certification for the fuel, when you can legally fly on this fuel as a passenger, we expect within a year that certification to be achieved in what's called the ASTM process, which is the main global entity that regulates the jet fuel specification. We expect that milestone to be achieved within about a year. The more challenging task is to develop the supply chain, getting the large-scale efforts up going and making sure those are done sustainably. We expect within 3 to 5 years, you'll start to see those sort of first step large-scale supply chains. Our goal in the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Users Group and Boeing is to see commercial viability by 2015. Commercial viability meaning enough of these production projects up and going that it looks and works. It looks like it will work, and there's enough confidence within the financial community and other investor communities that these solutions actually make sense.
Now, what is it going to look like? I mean, is it going to be a sudden switch that the aviation industry can totally wean itself off fossil fuels overnight or in a period of months, or is it going to be something that actually takes quite a few years?
It's going to be something that will happen incrementally over time, I think, is what most smart people on this subject would tell you, and they tell us, is that fundamentally changing the sources of energy for any large sector of an economy is a long-term prospect, and especially to do it right and to do it sustainably. The last thing anybody wants to go do is rush off and get excited about something that's supposed to be a good solution in terms of climate change, and turns out it's not so good. So by an incremental, steady march toward innovation and an increased understanding of sustainability and a solid platform for a sustainability certification regime, all of those things in place, those are going to take time. And so it's a decades-long march for sure to get to potentials for substituting all of aviation's fuel from petroleum to jet, if that ever happens. But that journey has to begin with first steps and second steps and third steps, and we're very focused on taking those initial steps toward that long-term desirable end state.
Just tell us a bit about the cost basis. I mean, are biofuels designed to be cheaper than traditional fossil fuels, or is it that they do cut emissions so that in itself has another type of value?
Right.
Or is it going to be more expensive actually for airlines to use biofuels?
So there's a really simple, easy answer for you. We've never talked to an airline that's willing to pay more for a biofuel. So, and I can promise you that that's what all of the biofuel developers are hearing as well. So there's a very clear market signal that biofuels for aviation, if they're going to be viable, have to be cost competitive with petroleum. No question about that. Now, if there's a carbon premium or a carbon value on top of that biofuels are advantaged by, that'll factor into the ultimate value proposition as well on an economic basis. But the bottom line is, what we're hearing from airlines universally is these have to be cost competitive with petroleum fuels.
Okay, Darrin, thanks very much indeed.
You're welcome. Thank you.